Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that two of them think doing a podcast called Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea is a pretty neat idea. They are Jeff and Bryan. Hi there, this is Jeff. I'm with my friend Bryan, and this is our Independence Day
bonus episode. Hey Jeff, how are you?
Well, I'm doing great, Bryan. How are you?
Well, Jeff, I'm feeling unconventional.
Unconventional? Why are you feeling unconventional?
Oh, well, I did get to attend the FanEXPO in Philadelphia in 2023, and it was a pretty exciting weekend, and I think we should have a quick discussion about it. What do you think?
I think that sounds like a good idea. I was supposed to hopefully be there with you, but scheduling just didn't work out.
Yeah, I know. It's exciting, and I hope we can do it again sometime. In fact, I think I might be able to come out there and see you in Chicago, and maybe we can go out there then.
That would be great. So, tell me about this convention.
Last year, we were able to get together, and we attended FanEXPO in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And we had an awesome time.
Absolutely.
And since that time, of course, you've gotten super busy with your farm and your horses and all that kind of thing,
right?
Which is really exciting. But last year, I was so excited, I thought I'd go ahead and buy tickets for this year.
Right. And I was going to hold off until I was sure I could make it, of which I wasn't able to.
Exactly. So I debated back and forth about whether or not I was going to attend myself. And I thought, for the sake of the podcast, I'm going.
Dressed up as the captain?
Oh, well, I actually put on my telephone sanitizer's second class costume.
Okay. So the regular man on the street.
The regular man on the street, and it doesn't really look like a costume, but it does have a graphic t-shirt, so people tend to talk to me with that.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. So I had quite the adventure going on those 3 days of the event. Okay. The first day, as you know, we both like to attend the sketch duels.
Yes. Explain what those are.
Yep. For those that are uninitiated to sketch duels, usually it's two artists. Sometimes it's more that sit with a moderator. The moderator asks questions from the audience to get the cartoonists started with a sketch. They'll do a mashup or a character in an unusual situation or just a character that they want to do. And then the artists pseudo-compete for the quality of their images with each other. And as you remember, when we went last year, Joe Wass, who's a artist renowned himself, known for his portrayal of Charlie the Tuna,
right,
was the moderator in most of those events that we attended.
Yes.
Some of them were sparsely attended, and you and I both walked away with sketches.
Correct.
Because at the end of the sketch, they, at least when Joe was doing it, at the end of the sketch duel, they raffled off via a ticket the different sketches. As I said, you and I both were able to win different sketches for different duels and stuff.
Correct.
So here I am thinking to myself, I got this great opportunity. I'm sure to win a sketch this year.
Well, of course.
And at the first one I got to, I was walking in as they were calling the numbers, so I was too late for that one.
Traffic.
And then the next one that I went to was held in the artist alley out in the common area of the convention, so that was heavily attended.
Right.
So the tickets were not in my favor.
Nope.
And I was beginning to think that I would have no success at all, whereas last time we went, we had glorious, success.
Right. I believe you won 2 different sketches in 2 different duels.
Yes, exactly. And so Oh, Saturday I'm on my way to the show and I get stuck in this incredibly long traffic line. Somehow I got stuck in a line going to a document shredding event
Oh,
rather than getting onto the public Patco train that was going to take me into the city where I could walk up to the convention. So I spent an extra hour in traffic that I didn't intend.
no.
And of course, that made me a little grumpy, but I did make it to all the events and I had a good time. In fact, that particular day, I'm walking around the showroom vendor floor and I met a young woman and her partner. I didn't actually catch whether they were husband and wife or not, but she had a booth where she was selling some of her laser created dice towers.
Oh,
And as you know, I've had my own little battle with a dice tower.
yes.
And we've discussed that before with the concept of prototyping and all that kind of stuff. But what I found infinitely fascinating about this young woman and her approach to it is she came up with a beautiful, beautiful design that her dice tower looks like a book.
Okay.
Just like mine did in the
Right.
end. And it consisted of a living hinge made from a laser etched edge. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that concept at all, but it's basically tiny little laser cut lines in a pattern that allows the wood to bend around a semicircle, as a
Okay.
hinge.
Oh, all right.
Fascinating. I mean, I was entertained with that, and
Open, close, open,
yeah,
close.
exactly. And then she did the simplest thing that I never even thought of, which was you open the book and the tower for the dice is lying snugly inside it, which you simply lift up, and you can roll the dice through the top, and they come out the bottom. So we both got to a similar answer, but hers was elegant in its execution, and
Okay.
I was really excited about that. And I talked to her for some length of time, and oddly enough, I should say interestingly enough, she'd only been in this industry for 2 years.
All right.
That was exciting. So I was taken back by the ingenuity and excitement of seeing the way that she solved the same problems that I had in a very unique, very elegant way.
Well, good. Could you steal some of those ideas?
I'd like to, but I don't have a laser cutter or CNC machine,
Okay.
which would be required for the kind of results. The living hinge would definitely not be able to be done with conventional wood cutting techniques.
Okay.
It's too intricate, and the tolerances are far too fine for what I could manage with hand tools or even fine woodworking tools that I do own.
Right.
So anyway, after I got home, I was thinking about it, and I said to myself, I really want to encourage her and people that are doing these kind of things. So I went out to my workshop and fumbled through my pile of wood and found a couple of pieces of maple that were bird's eye maple.
Okay.
Some of the finer pieces of wood that I had, they're smallish pieces. I mean, they were maybe 12 by 10 by a little over a quarter inch, so like 3/8 of an inch thick, and made sure they were nicely square and nicely, not finished sanded, but sanded,
Right.
and stuck them in my bag to go back on Sunday. And I have to tell you, after having gone through what would have been 6 duels at that point and having lost every one of them,
Right.
I was beginning to wonder why I was taking any time to go back to the convention.
Right.
Oh, but I was wrong. Oh, so wrong. As you know, Saturday at these conventions is just packed full of people.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah, shoulder to shoulder.
oh my gosh, the mob of humanity was just amazing. So it was hard weaving through things. Sunday, on the other hand, very nice. Friday, very nice. Crowds are thinner. People are eager. It was nice, and I
Good.
appreciated being there. While I was there, I attended 3 more sketch duels.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the interesting story about that in just a moment. But I also got to speak again with our friend Joe Wass.
Okay.
He was giving out lessons for people to learn how to sketch. So I sat in on one of his sketch lessons.
Okay.
And I made some drawings.
So how did that work? Does he stand up there and say, okay, draw a circle here? And then you draw the circle and he'll say, put this line, and you try and emulate what he's doing?
Right. He'll say things like, okay, this one looks like a upside down C, or this looks like a backwards 3. So make a motion like a backwards 3 and go here. And then you're going to go up and over this way. And he'll show the pen stroke or the pencil movement and describe the design. And his design work, as you know, is, I wouldn't call it rudimentary because it's definitely elegant, but it's a simpler style, a simpler control, you know?
Yes.
And so, yeah, you were able to follow along with him very closely. For the fun of it, I'm going to send you copies of the pictures that I drew.
Okay.
And maybe you'd like to post them on the video if we're going to do that for the YouTube folks.
Or I think we have an Instagram page, too, so we can
put them up on Instagram page. Oh, that'd be fun, yeah. We can definitely do that. Later on, I did actually speak with Joe, and I bought a copy of one of his covers, you know, with his signature on it.
Right.
And he drew for me a dragon that he made in his style, which I really liked. But then back to the sketch duels.
Okay.
The final sketch duel, after having lost the previous two again, I sit down and I'm handed my ticket. And my ticket ends in 242.
Well, what do you know?
So I'm thinking 42, that's my number, here it is. And this particular event was going on at the same time that the big meeting was going on upstairs with the Stranger Things cast or cast members that were there. So I think there might have been a dozen people in the room.
Okay.
So I sit down, and just as the two artists come in, I hate to say I can't remember the second one, but John Boy Myers, odd name I think, but very nice guy, was one of the artists. And he sat down, picked up the sketchbook, and said, oh, look at this, there's a sketch here in the book already. I wonder who left the sketch. It's not signed or anything. Would anybody like it? And I'm like, okay, this is my last chance. I'm raising my hand.
I'm taking the sketch.
Me, I do. You know, I raise my hand. And John Boy, I go up to the thing, and he hands me the sketch. And then he sees a young child
what was the
audience.
Sketch?
It was a sketch of like one of the Animal Maniacs. And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the female characters in that series. And then he asked the young man if he would like after he gave it to me, he asked the young man whether he would like it or not, and then suggested that we do rock, paper, scissors for it. and like I'm not going to let the kid win, you know? Well, you know me. I would have given it to him anyway, you know,
right.
But he wanted to play the rock, paper, scissors things, and this is a kid, so... I'm trying to lose the game, and he keeps doing the same gesture I do every time, over and over again.
Well, it's easy. No, it's not easy. It's as easy to intentionally win rock, paper, scissors as it is to intentionally lose rock, paper, scissors.
Exactly. So, but in the end,
unless you keep telling them, I'm doing paper. I'm doing paper.
Exactly.
Every time, paper's my move. Paper's my move.
So eventually, he does win, and I give him the sketch, and we move on. And John Boy says to me, hey, you know what? When we're done here, I'm going to be down in my booth in about, an hour. So come down to my booth. I'll do something for you. I said, sure, no problem. Like I said, I had every intention of giving it to him, whether he won or lost.
Right.
That was kind of fun. So this John Boy seems like a really nice guy. I mean, he had a long conversation, and then we sat through that, and then I'm like, oh, now I got to spend another hour waiting for him to return to his booth. So I wandered around. And one thing I did find that was interesting and different about this particular convention based on our previous experience from last year, two things that were unusual. That one was that they had a tattoo aisle where they were doing tattoos.
Okay.
Right there in the aisle. And they had far fewer handcrafted, unique items than the previous event.
Okay.
There was a lot of stuffed animals. there was a lot of, I don't know, reproduced photographs or at least reproduced images.
Right.
Some lenticular paintings or prints, that kind of thing, but very few handcrafted or crafted items. Another big one was coffee for some reason.
Oh.
Small batch, locally roasted coffees.
Mm-hmm.
Different. I know these things change, but that caught me a little off guard. So anyway, I was able to sit in the audience and listen to Rose McIver, which she's from iZombie and now most recently from Ghosts.
Right, she plays Samantha.
Right. And what I thought was really interesting is she sat there and talked, and she has a heavy New Zealand accent.
Right.
And she plays an American, I guess, in Ghosts.
Yeah.
I don't recall her having an accent in iZombie.
I've never seen iZombie.
But I did watch it at the beginning. I saw a couple of different episodes. I don't know if you remember the premise or not, but she eats the brains of dead people and then becomes them.
Oh. So I'm surprised I've missed it.
It seemed like the kind of thing you might have seen.
Yes.
And that was kind of fun because she started acting. Apparently her first professional role was when she was 2 years old.
Wow.
She was at, what did we determine, like age 12 or something? She was in Xena.
Yeah, and earlier than that, I did kind of look it up after you told me that, and it kind of makes sense that she lives in New Zealand. Mm-hmm. She was in, I think, all 5 of the Hercules movies that preceded the TV show, and then she was in at least one episode of the TV show Hercules and the episode of Xena. So that was all shot in New Zealand.
Wow. Yeah. Right. So that was interesting. I did say that. I did get to see that. And you know what? I just thought of something. I actually did win a sketch prior to my last sketch duel.
So you've lied to our fans.
Oh, I've lied to everybody. and probably the only reason was that this was... I meant to bring up one other thing while I was thinking about that. Joe Wass was the moderator for the sketch duels that we saw together.
Right.
They brought back a sketch duel moderator from their previous FanEXPO exhibitions to moderate here in Philadelphia this time.
Okay.
And he did it the way I think it was always intentionally done at the beginning, which was the 2 artists would create a sketch, then they would call a number. The person would get the opportunity to pick one of the 2 sketches, and whichever sketch that person picked, that artist was the winner of that round.
Rather than saying, we're raffling off this one, they're just drawing, and if you won the second one, you get whatever's left over.
Right, exactly. So the one where I did win a sketch of Tom and Jerry.
Okay.
The moderator was kind of yabbering on, and one artist was doing a lot of the answering. I guess he was talking a lot, and he made maybe 2 sketches during that time, but the other artist was just sketching away. I mean, he must have produced like 10 sketches in the time where they were sitting there. So
wow.
out of the 20 people sitting in the audience, I happened to be one with a lucky number.
Did you get one of the guy that was just drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing?
Yep. Yes, okay. I did. Yep. And I wish I had been if I had been 1 or 2 people before, I would have been able to get his sketch of Underdog, which was fantastic. I mean, I love Underdog, but I got a sketch of Tom and Jerry.
Okay.
So that was a lot of fun. But anyway, in the end, I went back over to John Boy's booth when he returned to his booth. And again, he was a very nice gentleman, highly motivated, highly motivating to other artists and that kind of thing. And sitting there talking to him for a few minutes. And then he asked me whether I wanted a sketch or something else. And I said, I'd like a sketch. And then he looked like he thought that would take too much time. So he reached over and grabbed a copy of one of his cover art, Spider-Verse comics.
Okay.
He did cover art for one of the early Spider-Verse, I guess.
All right.
Comic books. He handed that to me, and I shook his hand and came on home. So it's funny, because if I hadn't gone on Sunday, I never would have been in the 42 vortex.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been as lucky as I ended up being on that day.
So in my mind, you're still carrying around a piece of maple.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did forget to mention that I dropped that off.
Oh, so you said, hey, here's some wood?
Right. I know it sounds creepy, and I when I went up to the booth, I'm like, oh God, I hope she doesn't think I'm a jerk or a weirdo or whatever. I walked up to her and said, look, I wanted you to have this. It's some bird's eye maple from my collection, and I really want to encourage you to continue to do this work and to continue to expand what you're doing, because of all the people that I've seen in this particular vendor's alley, you're doing some of the most creative problem solving and some of the best work that I've seen here.
Wow.
And she seemed very moved by it, and her partner, I think husband, came over and gave her some suggestions as to what they might do with the pieces of wood. And I thanked her once again and walked off. Her company is Fire and Ash, and
okay.
I know they're on Twitter and that kind of thing. That's Fire with a Y and Ash with an E at the end.
Okay.
You can find them on all the regular platforms. It was exciting to talk to her and to encourage what I consider a new artist, you know?
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. So, Bryan, other than Rose McIver, was there anybody else interesting that you saw at the convention, celebrity-wise?
Oh, yeah, there were. I didn't actually get up close or personal with anyone, but I did see Henry Winkler was there. And I know that you've seen him at conventions before, because you mentioned him before.
Yes, I stood in his line, and I had him sign a trading card from Happy Days for me. And when you're going to meet these celebrities, you don't want to tell the same things or try and say the same jokes that they've heard a million times. So you're trying to come up with something that you want to talk to them about.
Right.
Anytime I have seen any other celebrity talk about Henry Winkler, they've always described him as the nicest guy in the world. Just absolutely the nicest guy in the world. Everybody. Bar none. And they go on and on and on about it. And I'm thinking, I've heard this about people, but nobody is that nice. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to go up to him. And if you go to these conventions, if you've ever been to one, the celebrities sit next to a ticket taker. And you go to the ticket taker, you give them your ticket, they ask what you want signed, they make sure you've paid or whatever, and then you take a step to the right. Celebrity sitting behind the table, they look up at you for a little bit. Hi, how you doing? Great, nice to meet you. Sign. Now you're on your way.
Yep.
So I thought, here's what I want to tell Henry Winkler, is that all I've ever heard is that he is the nicest guy in the world, and nobody could actually be that nice. Therefore, everybody is deathly afraid of him and does not want to say anything bad about Henry Winkler, or else, bad things will happen. So I'm in line wanting to do my little spiel about how he can't possibly be the nicest guy in the world. And I'm standing in line and I'm looking at the ticket taker, and the chair next to her is empty. And I'm like, oh, I wonder when he's going to get here. And then, the line keeps moving. And I'm like, well, how is the line moving if he's not there? And then I noticed he wasn't sitting behind the table waiting for people. he was working the line. He was outside with the fans, standing in line, shaking hands, personally thanking everybody for coming, walking with them to the table through the whole process. So you didn't get just your 3 seconds with him. He was just out there. And I could not believe that he was actually the nicest guy in the world. And I then had nothing to say to him.
Well, that's funny. So after you had told me that story, I was really curious as to that experience. So although I did not get his signature, I did stand there for quite some time and watched him interact with the crowd. And as you described, what a gentleman. I mean, he just was saying hello to everyone, as kind as he could be, out in front of the booth, standing with the people in line. I mean, it couldn't have been a more personable experience. And like you say, we've had dozens of the other kind where they sit behind a glass wall almost, and you can see that they're signing it, but you can't really react to it.
Right. Yes.
He was very nice, and you could tell the people that were interacting with him were enjoying the experience, and that's something special. Yeah. Definitely.
He is the nicest guy in the world.
The only other person that I saw there at that I thought was interesting was Christopher Lloyd was there.
Okay, yes.
I didn't go for a signature from Christopher Lloyd either, although I do have to say the variety and expanse of what Christopher Lloyd has done in the entertainment industry is quite immense.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
We may only know him as Doc. He is a producer, writer, director. I mean, for a lot of shows. I've seen his name in a lot of places and in a lot of shows that I truly enjoy. So I know that he's a real fixture in the entertainment industry.
Yes, he is, definitely. Yeah, they were having a Back to Future thing, and Michael J. Fox was there too.
Right, and I wondered about that, and because there was an opportunity to get signatures from Michael J. Fox, but I never saw him at his booth. In fact, I think they were having him sign things personally behind the scenes. You could buy a signature, you can provide or pick up a photograph, and then you could arrange to come back and pick it up at a later date. I know that they did do some photo op stuff, yes, but I never actually saw him sitting at his assigned table.
Okay. Well, what I did see on Henry Winkler's Twitter was he did a selfie with him and Michael J. Fox, and it looked kind of like he was out at the table, but honestly, it could have been anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. I was remarking to my wife, it's kind of funny when you look at the agenda or the schedule for the entire weekend, they've got photo op of this person, photo op of this person, photo op of this person.
Yeah.
But then when you're actually at the convention, the photo ops are all behind these draped walls. You can't see anybody. You can't see any lines, so even though it was an activity that was going on, without paying the extra ticket, you never even got close to that area or those people. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
Because we've been in places where they do the photo ops out in the open, with the line is visible and the people are back there and, they stand in front of a background or whatever and the photographer is in front of them. But in this particular case, they were behind a curtained wall. You never saw any of them.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, it's all getting sequestered and everything's private because, heaven forbid you pulled out your cell phone and took a picture.
Exactly. Which I did do that for a couple of people just for my own fun and giggles.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you sent one of Rose.
I did. I actually was sitting like second row. I was way up there. It was, and she was very natural, very calm. And man, in listening to her talk, she has had one hell of a lot of physical training. I mean, in karate and jiu-jitsu, and I mean, she must be extremely physically fit.
Right.
Because she's had all this training. I guess in her iZombie stuff, she did a lot of stuff like that. And her other things, she's done combat roles that I'm not real familiar with.
Oh, all right.
Okay, Jeff. Well, that's about all I've got from my convention experience. So I think it's time to say goodbye, Jeff.
All right, Brian, I will say goodbye and see you in the autograph line. Thank you for listening to Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. Look for us the first Thursday of every month for a full episode. We will also release a bonus episode later in the month. A very special thanks goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. We would also like to thank our talented friends and family for their voice work on our introductions and commercials. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettyneatidea.buzzsprout.com, where you can find links to all my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube as Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea, on Instagram as Watches Idea Podcast, and on Twitter at Watches Idea. If you'd like to contact us, our email is digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com.
This has been a Froods for Thought production.